now. So, of course, we've got to start off with a little shameless self-promotion. So Newbold Advisors is an 8.5-year-old consulting company. We're almost 500 now. And I run the data management practice, as George mentioned, with quite a bit of experience. I used to run a global BI practice for a large consulting company and had the opportunity to see many engagements, many clients in different areas of the globe. But I live in Houston, and the skyline is now speckled with tower cranes, so we're hunting in our backyard. Have lots of oil and gas experience and lots of consultants with industry experience in that space. And so that's primarily what I'll be talking about today, but a lot of what I will have to say will apply to other industries, and we do have experience in other industries. We've worked with a lot of large companies, also small companies, and as I'll go into here on the next slide, there's quite a few things that we do in the data management space, which is within my practice. Large focus on master data and BI projects. We were full service all the way from initial kind of business case and definition strategy. I'll be talking today about some of the approach and things that we look at when we do cost-benefit justified business cases. We can also do complete design and development and support, whether it's data warehousing, master data, business process management. And we've also have some specialized services like Radar, which clients use if they're considering a data migration or perhaps an acquisition within the company, and they want to take a look at some of that data. And of course, we've also got experienced consultants across the board from various backgrounds, various technologies, across folks with governance, process experience, et cetera. So that's pretty much the space that my practice plays in. Talking a bit specifically on oil and gas, you can see some of the projects that our consultants have been involved with. The data management practice in Newbold is 2 years old, so the bottom two projects are ones that we're now involved with, although one of the earlier ones listed, we now have another project started back in, so we need to update the slide. But so we've been going back to 2000, oil field service companies, roadmap and implementation around, a lot of the domains that are out there, from product, business associate, wells, customer, supplier, product. So you can see a lot of these have product involved. We've worked with Verdantis over the years. They provide extremely valuable services that they'll show you more about today. Also, you can see some of the different technologies that we've worked with, and often those things kind of as you get the data better and better structured and better defined, often those things kind of spill over into some data warehouse or BI rework. Besides what you see on the screen, we've got experience in just about as many other MDM projects in retail, financial services, consumer packaged goods, manufacturing, and other types of domains. So we have lessons learned from those projects that we bring to oil and gas and vice versa. So with the self-promotion behind us, what I like to talk about with clients is, the big push today is to be agile. You need to be quick to respond to market changes and opportunities, being able to manage more specifically by fact and intuition. You need to be aware of what your customers, suppliers, and even employees need. You need to have excellence across the board within all of your business functions. And of course, there's higher and higher transparency as people have more access via their handheld devices and the web. There's a lot more transparency required. And so it's really about the cycle of competitive advantage, right, which is plan, act, measure, analyze, and back to plan. So companies that can execute that cycle efficiently and frequently are the leaders in the space. And really what they're improving are their core business processes, right? So to be able to improve those processes, we need to be able to have, better information. And that's why we're seeing an explosion. Pretty much every client we talk to these days says, master data and data quality management are some top-level initiatives because they're finding out that, good quality data is no longer competitive advantage. It's just competitive parity. So that's kind of that pyramid, right, from improving the processes You need to be able, there's data required to execute those processes. You have systems involved with that. From those systems, you can glean the information to identify how you can manage your business and the wisdom. So that's kind of the heart of the importance of master data management is operational efficiency within your systems and excellence for analytics. And without that quality reference data, you lose a lot of the context that you need for operational effectiveness and for analytics and thus the cycle of competitive advantage. So what we've been seeing over the last couple of decades within oil and gas market is, back in the 1990s, even, there was a lot of mileage also kind of out of the Y2K concerns. A lot of large companies did their first ERP implementations, and some of that was the hopes that they would have all their data in a single place and it would be good quality. But what they found out was that there was a lot of functionality that was missing, and so what we saw was an explosion in the late 90s and early 2000 of lots of additional applications, whether they were commercial applications or custom applications, but there was just an explosion of applications, filling in gaps that the ERPs couldn't handle at the time, right? Also, you had the growth on web functionality, external-facing, internal-facing portals, so there was a lot of focus on that. That added to the complexity. Somewhere around that time, late 90s, early 2000s, was their foray into their first data warehouse because data was in multiple places. It wasn't available for analysis, so some of the data warehousing popped up. And, of course, as you had application sprawl, enterprise application integration became more of a focus, and so there was some initial efforts of moving data around, but they started realizing that, the integrations became point-to-point, they became brittle, there was different definitions of data, or there was redundancy in the integrations, and of course, at the same time, the ERP vendors enhanced their functionality, and now what we're seeing is a lot of companies kind of reworking their second round of ERP, and you heard George mention that earlier, that there was a lot of those companies that were, implementing or upgrading ERP systems, so we're certainly seeing that in oil and gas. Now what's happening is that, the lessons learned from their first data warehouse and also being driven by changes from their second ERP system and even growth, from data to information to knowledge to wisdom, we're seeing some of the companies start to rework this and produce a second generation of their data warehouse. And of course, all of this, there's the promise of big data, and we're even seeing companies now talking about being, as their data gets better and their systems are more mature, starting to move into the promise of big data, which gets into predictive analytics and early warning systems. So that's just kind of the growth that we've seen. The ultimate goal of all this is, still long-term, and may not be 2020s, might be longer, but really the promise of business process management that's been out there where you can tweak your processes and it changes your functionality, and we're seeing that, become a bit more pervasive. But the point is that at some point this all completes the feedback loop much more completely and much more in a much more agile way. And so you can see these things if you go out and look at some of the futuristic predictions from some companies. So this one is from IDC. They're talking about, to get to the benefit of big data and predictive analytics, one of the one of the cornerstones is clear master data management strategy. And of course, beyond just strategy, it's actually having good quality master data management. If you look at something, this came out of a presentation from DataFlux, but they're saying the same things. To be able to get to that holy grail of very tight integration between your processes and your systems, you've got to get your customer data and your product data and your master data, proactive and well governed. And that's kind of the next step beyond where companies are right now, which is just upgrading ERP and CRM. So the point of all this is that it is absolutely foundational to address this. So before you can move on, you've got to be able to cross kind of that brick wall and hurdle the master data management barrier. Otherwise, you're not going to get to the promise. So what's the benefits of this? Anybody with Google can go out and start looking at what some of the benefits are for master data management. These that I'm showing you now are primarily tied to product master data management, and these are the type of benefits that we're typically seeing within companies, right? So inventory levels, out of stocks, I'll kind of let you folks read down through this. There's some pretty big numbers in here, but the main thing is that there's a lot of different measurement points. Some of these apply to some companies. Others, some don't, and the ones that don't to one company may apply to another company, but it's kind of like there's not always a smoking gun, but once you start looking at these, it becomes a massive pile of circumstantial evidence that becomes extremely compelling, becomes very large numbers. I'll give some examples here in a minute. And we're usually looking at 10 to 1, if not 20 to 1 ROI on MDM initiatives. So that's often what we've seen when we've had a chance to really do a good business case and companies see the benefits. Not only do they move quickly, but we've even been in situations where they've pulled money from other projects to get MDM initiatives off the ground. So it's really being able to pull that together and understanding the benefits of that. So I'm going to use an example of a $10 billion manufacturing and service company. So if you're larger than that, you can multiply these numbers up. If you're smaller than that, you can use a fraction. So I use some nice simple numbers. And actually the 10 billion and 1 billion inventory is kind of a relative number anyway. So we're seeing these kind of benefits surface in multiple areas. So one of the big fish in this is inventory. And you'll see, if you go out and look, you'll often see numbers as high as 20% inventory reduction. Normally what we're seeing is something more like 5%. And so, again, on $1 billion worth of inventory, you're looking at $50 million or more very easily. And of course, that's a one-time benefit. That's not a year-over-year, and those things can come within a couple of years. The rest of these I'm going to talk about are year-over-year benefits. So the other kind of big one that we see is a lot of companies will overstock because they don't want to be in out-of-stock situations. They don't have visibility into their inventory. There's chaos or confusion about their inventory. So one thing that they're doing is overstocking, but even within that, there's still a lot of out-of-stock conditions that result in very expensive equipment downtime. Also with that data, salespeople and customers can move much more quickly. They're not missing prices. And also we're seeing companies being able to be much more aggressive or value-based in their pricing. So those kind of all together go together within sales benefits, and those are often large numbers. Cycle times reduce, so lead and procure to pay times, the errors that come from having to reconcile incorrect shipments, being able to do custom engineering or engineer to order faster. Those can have some significant benefits. Your support costs will go down as your data maintenance efforts go down. The effort to produce your analytics goes down. The effort to do application integration goes down. Errors in other areas also go down. Product upgrades, pricing, logistics errors can add into all of this. Having to write off sales because of errors that occurred can also add to the pie. Even as far as technology, I'll talk a little bit more about this. This is just in general. But being able to handle acquisition much faster, having kind of a publish and subscribe architecture instead of point-to-point when you're integrating gives you a much more robust system. And also we're seeing the growth in the GDSN data transformation standards, so it allows you to integrate with that. So that's usually a small slice of the pie, but we're seeing that growing. For performance analysis, that's where a lot of the analytics benefits come in. A lot of the supplier performance analysis is actually how they're doing with their delivery, so you need that product data to be able to analyze suppliers effectively. Of course, you want to see how various parts are performing. You want to be able to look at product level profitability, so there's benefits in being able to get the analysis out easier and faster with higher quality. And there's even a small price or benefit within compliance. So we're seeing that being able to easier produce compliance coding, to have that lineage to produce compliance reporting faster. So if you look across the board here, so you're going to have roughly a 5% benefit, and then roughly about another $60 million a year in a $10 billion company. So it's a small fraction of the overall revenue, but when you're looking at these kind of numbers, when you start looking at a MDM project that's a tenth of that price, it starts getting a lot of attention. Additionally, as George mentioned earlier, there's a lot of upgrades. So all these things are pretty much motherhood and apple pie, but one of the things that we see that regularly drives MDM projects is business system upgrades. I heard somebody say yesterday, you don't want to buy a new car and put the old oil in it from your old car, and that's kind of what that is. So there's huge value in making sure that your new systems have good quality data. For example, if you have supplier redundancy or part redundancy, which means that you have redundancy in some of the identifiers in those systems, if you don't correct that and rationalize those before you go into the new systems, it's almost impossible to be able to rationalize those over time. So there's great value in getting your data quality and your master data nailed down to get the maximum value out of your new system. Additionally, your go-live risk goes down. Most of the delayed go-lives for new systems have to do with data. So if your data is of good quality and you're able to integrate it quickly and it's clean, we've seen companies hit schedules, and even one client we worked with were able to actually accelerate their schedule for multiple go-lives because their data was so good. And of course, the last thing too is the organizational change management. Having good data and talking about that and people seeing benefits gives you good buzz around adoption of the new system, right? So there's always pain putting in a new system, but if people can actually see that the data is better, the descriptions are better, especially around product data, they're going from old cryptic descriptions and attribution into really nice descriptions and attributions like what you'll see here in a minute from Verdantis. It really helps keep the buzz up and heighten adoption for the new system. I'll close with a couple of misconceptions, so I'll let you read through this. I'll hit on a couple of them. Often we see people saying, it's too expensive. We talked about that. They try to do it in-house. They think that their system integrator for their ERP system will take care of it. They only think there's a few systems involved or that they'll clean the data themselves. Those are all misconceptions that we run into. And so the things that we push are let your SI take care of your ERP implementation, let your data management company deal with your data management, let them specialize. There's more systems. Once you start peeling the onion, you'll often find out that there's many systems involved. One client we worked with, they thought they had a dozen systems. We're now looking at over 100 systems that actually contain product data. Cleaning the data themselves is a long, long road, so you need to get ahead of that. So that's where services like Verdantis become invaluable. And then also being able to say, hey, well, we don't, we'll use our existing systems as the systems of record. There's very few cases where that's effective. So solution approach is really focus on that business case. That's where you can get the buy-in as you step into feasibility and often some quick strikes and phases, et cetera. And this is where Newbold can come in. We offer a free solution build session where we'll help you build that business case and charter. From that, we have everything we need to get you a proposal for other steps. So that's a service that we provide, and you can contact us if you're interested in that. So I'll quickly summarize this and hand it back to George. Without high-quality data, you're not going to get the full value of new business systems. MDM ROI is huge. The rough numbers for a manufacturing service company is about 5% of total inventory, about 6% of total revenue. You can easily do the math on that. And what you've got right now is the most expensive. So whatever you're doing right now is more expensive than implementing a master data management solution. And again, focus on the business case. Know that your competitors are moving forward, so this is now competitive parity to move forward with MDM. If you've got implementations going on, that's a great time to start. Start early on your cleansing. Leverage everything you can, especially services like what Verdantis has, and of course having a third party that's been through all of this as you learn how to fish is extremely valuable. And I'll close with that. And George, back to you.